My role is assisting with night patrol along the protected area boundary. Thus, each dry season, I'm on radio standby in a temporary tent, anticipating waterhole accidents. That day, just before sunset, I was sorting my gear for the final check when I started hearing a persistent friction sound from outside. Like something was scraping wet mud, repeating from the same spot. It was too persistent to be merely the wind, so I took my headlamp and walked toward the sound. The moment I lowered the beam, I saw a baby elephant stuck in a mud pit, desperately flailing its front legs. Each time the baby struggled, the mud crumbled, seeming to narrow its escape route. Its cry, though faint, was constant, and the sound mixed with the scraping, which choked me up. I yearned to rush over and try to pull it out, but my feet felt rooted to the spot. I knew that if I acted too hastily, the mud would collapse further, transforming a potential rescue into a full-blown catastrophe. Even as it cried, the calf couldn't keep its eyes fixed on one spot. Its head would shake slightly whenever the crying stopped, its eyes searching the empty air. That reaction made me even more anxious, so I started scanning the surroundings, not just the pit. The baby cried out again, and it was clearly a call for help. But on a night like this, that very cry could attract predators, making things even more dangerous. Trying to steady my hands, I keyed the radio. "This is Boundary Sector 3. A baby elephant is stuck in a mud pit." Coordinates transmitted. After a brief silence, a reply came. "Copy that. En route. Terrain will delay arrival. Do not approach. Secure safety." As soon as he said that, I made my decision. A pulling up rescue is impossible. I have to create a path for the calf to get out on its own. There's a simple reason we set up camp near here. At the dry season start, animals gather at waterholes, leading to more falls, entrapments, and injuries. After dark, rescues become harder, and predators move faster. So we remain close to the site, ready to investigate any small signal the moment we hear it. Today, that small signal was this very calf. I refrained from touching it immediately. A body trapped in mud isn't merely heavy, it's practically cemented to the ground. If you try to pull it with a rope, you risk injuring its joints or causing the mud to give way further, thus dragging it even deeper. So, I first examined the edge of the pit. I confirmed that even though the surface looked solid, the inside was wet. One wrong step, and I could sink in, feet first. I also observed the spots that caved in when the calf shifted, and if these collapses were dragging it deeper, or forging an escape route to the side. The first thing was to figure out that difference. The ground looked solid, but with every step, I could feel moisture beneath the surface. Even in the dry season, these pits rot, grabbing you by the ankles once you fall in. So, I hushed my steps with every move, and I kept my light carefully lowered, ensuring my shadow wouldn't fall upon the baby elephant. Because even a small stimulus could make the calf struggle even more. The moment I started to clear some soil from the edge, the calf twisted its body fiercely, and right then, the mud crumbled, nearly causing the calf to slide further down. I froze, holding my breath. Rushing would cause further collapse, sinking the baby deeper. That simple rule flashed in my mind in big, bold letters. The baby was panting, and it sounded less like fear and more like its energy was draining away. When the mud collapsed, it sounded so loud in my head it felt like my ears were bleeding. It wasn't actually loud, but it was deafening within my mind. Watching the collapsing mud rise above the baby's belly, it choked me up even more. When it paused, then began to struggle again, I knew those tiny feet were only trapping it deeper, yet I was helpless to intervene. From a distance, I heard a laugh-like cry. Hyenas. The urgency to finish before sundown pressed on my chest. I keyed the radio again. "The hyenas are getting closer." "We're out of time," the reply came. "Copy, almost there." Getting too close now with the vehicle noise and lights could gravely worsen the situation. "We'll give you light from a distance. You start making a ramp." When hyenas are far away, they sound like they're laughing, but as they get closer, it changes to the sound of breathing. That day, the change happened so fast it felt like each of the baby's cries was drawing them closer, and as the darkness fell, my field of vision narrowed. I wanted to speed up, but I held back, knowing that the moment I did, more soil could collapse. I entirely gave up on the notion of pulling it out, instead focusing my efforts on carving a sloping ramp into one of the pit's walls. The way out wasn't going to be up, it had to be a path it could crawl out on its own. I first cleared thorny bushes to remove injury risks. Then, I widened the path, moving soil sideways instead of digging down, to keep the baby from sinking further. I kept the noise down too. A loud shoveling sound could make the baby panic, so I moved the soil slowly and quietly. Just making the ramp isn't enough. If the surface is slippery, the baby will slide back down and get even more exhausted. So, I covered the incline with dry soil, then embedded twigs and small branches to ensure it wouldn't slip. I carefully avoided using rocks, knowing they could create unwanted noise. The twigs created a quiet, firm surface, and each time the baby shifted, I observed where its footing faltered and reinforced those precise spots, little by little. This job isn't about strength, it's about observation and repetition. The baby took a long breath and started moving toward the ramp. At that moment I clenched my jaw, fighting the urge to help too much. I just reinforced the path right in front of its feet, packing the ground down. With each step the baby took, I pressed down more twigs and cleared away some wet mud to help it maintain its grip and footing. The rope wasn't for pulling, it was a safety line, just to guide its direction if it started to lose balance. I'd add a little tension, then release it immediately. As the baby cleared the final ledge, its body suddenly lurched forward. I instinctively held back the urge to extend my hand and only intervened enough to prevent it from completely toppling over. Anything more would have been dangerous. The baby just collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. It was alive. And it wasn't a result of my own strength, but rather the baby's own effort to climb out. I thought it was all done, but the baby didn't rest. It took a few steps, then halted, looked back at me, and cried once more. That cry wasn't a sigh of relief for escaping the pit, but a short, abrupt sound, as if urging me to follow. The baby walked a few steps, then paused, cried out once more, repeating this pattern as if to confirm my presence and ensure I was indeed trailing behind. I didn't follow right away, I kept my distance. I checked the wind direction and moved slowly along the low ground to keep my scent from reaching it first, maintaining the gap between us. The calf ahead repeatedly stopped and then moved again. It was evident that this wasn't an escape but rather an act of leading someone. A little further in, I saw strange pressed grass marks, and the direction of the broken branches wasn't consistent. It didn't look like a struggle, but rather someone had rushed through. Mixed in with those traces was an unfamiliar scent, the smell of oil, the kind of smell a vehicle leaves behind. A chill ran down my spine. The baby pushed its way into some bushes. I didn't follow the same path, but moved to the side to get a clear view. Then I noticed a massive body lying low, and its ragged, gasping breaths reached me first. The sound was so rough it instantly froze me in my tracks. It was the mother elephant. She hadn't completely collapsed, but was on all fours, her body pressed almost to the ground. She was gasping for air, and her chest heaved excessively with every intake of breath through her trunk. But something was wrong with her leg. A thin line was wrapped around it. It was a metal wire, and there were dried bloodstains. The baby ran to its mother's side and rubbed against her. The mother touched the baby with her trunk, then let out a long breath because of the wound on her leg. The instant I witnessed that scene, everything clicked. The calf, desperately seeking assistance, must have stumbled in the mud at the waterhole's edge, falling into the pit. Then, it had meticulously retraced its journey, deliberately guiding me back to this very spot. I pressed the radio button and lowered my voice. A louder sound could easily upset the mother even more. This is Boundary Section 3. I have an injured mother elephant. Looks like a wire trap on her leg. Veterinary team needed. Please keep lighting low. A reply came back. Roger that. Vet team, prepare to deploy. Minimize approach. Check for human presence. At that moment my task was clear. The rescue was far from over after the pit. The actual rescue was just starting now. I consciously kept my distance from the mother. Touching the wire with my own hands could be even more perilous. If the mother were to suddenly move, the wire could constrict further, and I wouldn't be able to prevent that movement. So, I scanned the surrounding area instead. I saw not only elephant footprints but also tracks of varying depths mixed in, confirming they were human traces. A short distance away I saw an area where the ground was abnormally compressed, and the smell there was different. It was the smell of oil. A vehicle had likely been here. A chill ran down my spine. Someone could still be nearby. I kept my headlamp's beam low, just on the ground. A shiny piece of something glinted in the grass, a cheap plastic wrapper. It was an object that absolutely shouldn't have been in the wild. Beside it was a mark, resembling a boot's sole, so I stepped back, careful not to tread on it. It was a trace someone else could follow later. In the distance, the low rumble of a vehicle began to sound. The rescue team. I didn't wave my arms wildly, but just shone my light on the ground to show them my position. The team didn't get too close. The lights were kept low, and the engine noise was minimal. The veterinary team first got a status update over my radio, and I quickly shared the location of the wire, the mother's breathing, and the baby's position. The vet spoke briefly. If the mother gets agitated, the leg injury could worsen, and with the baby right there, we had to be extra careful. He also said what we needed was the right sequence, not brute force. I nodded in agreement. The veterinary team strategically positioned themselves out of the mother's direct sightline, then administered a sedative, carefully timing it to ensure she wouldn't suddenly collapse. As her breathing slowly deepened and I could see the tension leave her body, I counted my own breaths. I worried if my breathing quickened, my hands would too. so I deliberately inhaled and exhaled slowly. Sensing the change, the baby started crying louder. It must have felt like its mother was disappearing. I didn't reach for the baby. Instead, I stayed perfectly still, keeping a low profile. The greatest assistance I could provide was ensuring the calf didn't view me as an enemy and keeping it from bolting. The vet team checked the wire and saw it had already started digging into her flesh. They cut it with a cutting tool, then slowly unwound each side without yanking it. A little more blood emerged during the process, but I tried my best to not dwell on it. The longer I stared, the more my calm would waver, my hands would quicken. The wound was cleaned, disinfected, medicated to prevent infection, and bandaged for protection. They alleviated the pressure by gently lifting her leg off the ground, because if she were to suddenly bear her full weight upon waking, the wound might tear open again. While the treatment was underway, another team searched a wider area and found more discarded pieces of wire a short distance away. As it became evident that someone had set a trap and hastily departed, a surge of anger swelled within me. However, there was no time to dwell on such emotions at that particular moment. A living creature was right in front of me. The vet spoke in a low voice. He said she was fortunate. If the trap had constricted just a bit more, or if our arrival had been delayed, she might have lost her leg, or even worse, her life could have been in peril. His words stuck in my head, and I thought again about how we weren't too late. Just as the sedative started to wear off, the team backed away and dimmed the lights. We kept as quiet as possible because the calmer her surroundings are when she wakes up, the less fear she'll feel. The mother slowly lifted her head. Her breathing was still heavy, but she seemed calmer than before. She carefully tested her leg, then slowly got to her feet. The waiting baby ran to her and rubbed against her side. The mother wrapped her trunk around the baby, checking for injuries. The scene was so quiet and clear that I let out a long breath. The mother looked directly at me, but I lowered my head and couldn't meet her eyes. I made myself smaller, held my breath, and simply waited, signaling that I wouldn't flee or pose a threat. I wanted to give the mother time to make her own assessment. She didn't attack. She pivoted, embracing her calf closely to her side, and after a few exceedingly cautious steps, she slowly regained her natural rhythm and pace. The baby never left her side, not for a moment, and our team remained right there. Our final task wasn't to restrain them, but to quietly clear their path and allow them to depart. The vehicles quietly reversed to create distance, and we slowly turned off the lights. Radio chatter was brief, only essential words spoken. In the wild, drawing out an ending invites more danger. After that day, we patrolled that area more frequently. The human tracks, oil smell, and discarded wire I'd seen were reported and became our clues. A few days later, a ranger gave a brief update over the radio. A group of poachers had been caught in another sector, and the same type of wire was found among their confiscated equipment. Even hearing the news, I couldn't feel much joy. Just because they were caught doesn't mean the wounds of the past disappear. A few days later, I was passing through that same boundary again, and thought back to that evening. I saw the silhouettes of an elephant herd moving in the distance, their shadows swaying in the dust. I raised my telescope and looked for the one at the very back. I saw a small elephant. It was still small, yet unlike the trembling baby in the pit that day. Its steps seemed more confident, and it looked like it already knew how to move within the safety of its mother's shadow. I stopped where I was and didn't go any closer. I didn't call out to check. I just said to myself, "Thank you for surviving." The savannah was quiet, as if nothing had happened, but I know. That evening, the friction sound that shattered the stillness was both the baby's plea for help and its mother's urgent warning of danger. Ultimately, that single sound led them both to safety, guiding them in the same direction.